Hello, everybody. It is the Rainbow Brony here again, and it's just past midnight here. It's what time is it? It's 12:30 in the night, and I've decided I just want to read a horror fanfic. I've turned off all the lights. There are just some lit candles behind me, so it's gonna be pretty fun. And I just learned about a fanfic called The Rainbow Factory, and I heard it's a pretty fucked up fanfic, so after I just got over my trauma I got from Cupcake, so I decided, like, yeah, time to get some more nightmares and another trauma. Nah, just kidding, but I just heard the song too, so let's start. Um, Alright, here we go. By Aurora Dawn. Alright. Now a rainbow's tale isn't quite as nice as the story we knew of sugar and spice. There's long been rumors as to how exactly rainbows are made in Equestria. While a great amount of Pegasi ponies are employed in the rainbow department of the weather factory, almost all of them do the low-end work. What's known is that the great streams of spectra, the individual colors of the rainbow, flow through large gates and into vast vats. From there, workers carefully and equally mix the spectra into the coagulated rainbow pools that dot and run through the factory and surrounding city. Next, that mixture is pumped to the floor below, where other employees atomize it and store it until the active weather Pegasi deploy it in field. However, no one knows how an individual spectra are made. Supplies are never seen being brought in, leaving not even a clue what goes into a rainbow. Sorry. Tourists, when visiting the factory, are treated to an extremely foreboding and plain wall with massive solid doors barring entry to any pony at any time. While most of the facility's various signs and architecture is bubbly and welcoming, the Rainbow Factory's upper floor was protected by harsh imagery of potential hazards and death, and the cloud was made not out of the clean white of the rest of the city, but of a black, quietly thundering fog. To become an employee of the Upper Rainbow Factory means sacrificing any life outside those black walls. Workers are sworn to secrecy and forbidden from leaving and live inside the factory itself. Those few who even those few who ever managed to make it out, not in a body bag, were twisted and disturbed, too damaged to ever bring themselves to talk about it. A lot of theories were proposed. Dark magic from captured unicorns, chemicals, and environmental hazards that no Saint Pony would tolerate. And even thoughts of another unknown sister of Celestia's, designed to create the spectra instead of raise a moon or sun. None of them could be farther than the truth. Alright, so I guess this is where the horror story starts, or something. I'm a bit shaky. Sorry. I got everything standing by. My bladder's empty. Alright, so here we go. Come on, Orion, we're gonna be late for our final test. Schooloo called to a friend of hers. She was older, now in her last year of flight school. She, like all other Pegasus in the school, was terribly nervous at the final test. Those that passed were granted freedom into the world to find their cutie marks if they haven't yet. Wow, my voice really cracking. And becoming working ponies. Little known, or at least little thought about fact, was or what happened to the fillies that failed their tests. Well, uncommon, one or two from every class generally didn't have it in them to perform the rigorous acts and maneuvers. Those that failed their tests were looked down upon in the worst of ways, shunned and hated. Cloudsdale has always bred a form of nationalism against its occupants. If you weren't the best or didn't show the potential of being the greatest, you weren't allowed to be part of the glorious collective. Schooloo moved a little to the side as Orion, a tall yet fairly skinny pony, settled next to her. He fluffed his light brown feathers and gave a weird attempt at a smile as he stared around where he sat. They were sitting in the large open waiting room overlooking the Colosseum with all the other graduating Pegasi. Just visible in the distance was the factory. Orion glanced at it and gulped. What's the matter, Orion? You afraid of getting a dead-end job on the snow line? Orion chuckled a bit, but then closed eyes and sighed. No, it's just I don't know. I don't think I can do this. What if I fail? What if I don't fail, but just do bad enough to still be disliked by anybody? Everyone. I don't know if I can take being deported. Where do we even go anyways? Skulu gave Orion a friendly punch. No one knows you, dolt, and we're not going to fail. Everyone here is going to be fine. I know I will at least pass, she laughed. Thanks to wow. Thanks to the tips from Rainbow Dash, I'm sure to be fine. Oh yeah, sure, that reassures me. That's actually just as, if not even more reassuring than the psychopathic hate every pony here seems to love to spread. Quit panicking, scaredy wings, Skulu replied. The only one here I think even might fail is a yellow pony with a dark green mane. He's the one who was out sick for that month, you know. Oh yeah, Orion remembered as he craned his head in the other pony's direction. The one who had that bad case of hoof and wing. She looked pretty confident, though. I suppose we'll see, Skulu trailed, turning to look at the factory herself. It gave her chills, not of fear, but pride. I hope I get some cool, active weather job. Can you imagine? Everyone in Ponyville or Philadelphia staring up at me, going, there goes Skulu. Such an amazing flyer. And from Cloudsdale, there can be no doubt. She smiled in excitement, forgetting her tension for the moment. That will be awesome, I'll admit. Mind you, just coming from Cloudsdale, who wouldn't be in awe? Exactly. Praise the flog. Praise the flog. Places, every pony. A massive buff Pegasus walked towards the entrance to the Colosseum. We're going to do this by name. Your adjudicators on the east side of the field. Do not, I repeat, do not fly too far west. If they lose sight of you for any reason, you'll be failed immediately. Take deep breaths, stretch your wings one last time. That will be consistent of 3 seconds. Weather clearing, agility, and finally recovery. Clear the clouds, fly through the hoops, and then fly to the marked elevation. Close your wings for at least 3 seconds and you'll fail. But keep in mind, there's no extra points for extra seconds. Finally, recover before you hit the cloud floor. Understood? Any questions? The instructor paused and carefully glanced at every single pony in the room. Everyone's eyes were completely focused on him, and none were creased with confusion. All right, Auradon, you're up first. Clear, fly, fall, complete. The yellow pony nodded and walked quickly up to the starting ramp with purpose. She started at the watching judges, waited for a nod from all three, and then took off with powerful force. The ramp bounced slightly from the force of the takeoff. I'm sorry. I have to clear my throat. Every pony watched as Aura quickly reached the starting altitude, and then began a direct and purposeful attack on the position clouds. With expert timing and intelligent angles, the sky was soon empty of any moisture. Skule and Orion watched with open mouths as they watched the first testee pull fast and tight turns, expertly shooting dead center through each and every hoop. Finally, Aura pulled herself up to the proper altitude, hovered, and closed her wings. The group of students gasped as she started plummeting down toward the clouds and counted breathlessly. 1, 2, 3. They sighed as they watched her wings open in the correct amount of time, collectively holding that relief. Suddenly, Aurora's wings whipped upward, and the group of students flinched in horror as they screamed out loud, as they all heard the loud, hollow snap, only to be suddenly replaced by an unending, piercing scream. Many, like Orion, shielded their eyes with their wings, as others, like Skulu, could only watch terrified as the blur of yellow, green, and red plummeted into a cloud with a dull thump. Wasting no time, the instructor walked forwards as the three judges simply pointed down and started shuffling papers around. Speaking loudly as if nothing had happened, he called out again. Daisy Fields, clear, fly, fall, complete. Skulu and Orion stared slack-jawed as another pony gulped, then walked forwards onto the path and took off. They turned back to the tufts of the cloud where Aurora landed and stared. As the wind blew the fragments that were thrown up from the collision away, they saw the shivering yellow body attempting to move, only to collapse with a cry. Faraday spots, clear, fly, fall, complete. Aurora still struggled to walk, wailing with every step. Her legs weren't broken. She could use them fine, but it was obviously the pain from her wing joints and the loss of her potential life was crushing her. Skulu felt Orion shuffle uneasily, tears welling in his eyes as a frown formed on his face. Wow, that's a pretty hard-ass instructor. You break your wings and he just like, yeah, fuck that. Get out of the way. That's pretty hard-ass, man. It's like the military. They don't care about anything. Let's continue. Holiday shine, clear, fly, fall, complete. No one's coming to help her. Orion see through closed teeth. Skulu felt extremely sad for the yellow Pegasus, but couldn't see herself helping her. She would be failed herself. She would be failed herself and sent away, far away from Cloudsdale and any familiar place in Equestria, to a place where she and any other failed students could never stain Cloudsdale's reputation. It was a terrible shame, but Skulu couldn't fail herself. She couldn't fail her friends, and she definitely couldn't fail Rainbow Dash. Not after the care and help she had given her Skulu's whole life. Skulu blinked the tears from her eyes and forced herself to watch the competing students. One after another took off, successfully passed the test, and flew to the east gates under the judges' spots in the stands. That's all Skulu focused on. Pass the test, fly to the gate, live a happy life. Orion Solstice? Clear, fly, fall, complete. No. What? The instructor took a step back. Wow. Stuttering. One leg left raised in the air. You can't just refuse your flight test. Get out there before you piss the judges off. No. Don't even pretend you care about my future as if you don't care about hers. Orion defied, unsure about himself. You say you want me to get a good life, and yet you let those that fail suffer unbearable pain. Get the fuck out onto that field before I fail you myself, the instructor shouted menacingly, while swearing. Never seen that before in a pony fanfic. Fine, Orion spoke sharply before walking onto the ramp. He stared at the judges, waiting for the individual nods. And the second they came, he took off. However, long before the starting attitude, he turned sharply and landed gently next to Aurora. She turned and looked at him, blood running down her forehead and sides, and tears streamed down her face. What are you doing? You'll fail like me. You'll be exiled. I'd rather be exiled from a place that treats ponies like this than my entire life with others don't live theirs. I don't know if I said that back. Wow. Aurora smiled, happiness briefly replacing her sadness in her black and puffy eyes until she stumbled again and intense pain flashed across her body. Orion leaning close. Wow. I'm stuttering. Using his wing to brace the yellow pony against himself. He stared up at the judges, beaming hate with his vision. They stared down, unaffected, and simply pointed down before looking back towards the ramp for the next contestant. Skulu stood shocked, hardly hearing her name called. She moved numbly up to the ramp, never taking her eyes off her friend and the pony he sacrificed himself to help. After a brief moment she shook her head, recovered her thoughts, and looked at the judges. Thoughts passed through her head as she watched them all nod. Oh, Celestia, what do I do? I can't let every pony I know down, but I'll never see Orion again. I suppose I hope he knew that risk when he did that. I'm sure he's thinking the same right now. She glanced at Orion. He wasn't looking at her. She took off, heartbroken. Instinct kicked in as the familiar rush of wind cooled her and blew her thoughts away. She stopped at the right attitude, then launched again, sensing and seeing every cloud, formulating a game plan. In a matter of a couple dozen seconds, the sky was clear. She did a quick loop in midair, aiming at the first hoop. With a powerful flash of her wings, she propelled forward through the first ring, and then the second, and then the third, expertly turning and drifting. She curved in towards the second last ring near the bottom of the field. As she descended, she caught sight of Orion and Aurora, almost at the west gate now. Orion turned his head and smiled weakly. Skulu's focus shattered. Orion knew what he did. He cared about her. He'd miss her, and he'd never get to say goodbye. Skulu cranked to the bottom part of the ring, falling backward several feet and hitting the ground. With a sudden intense flash of fear, she flipped herself onto her feet and began flapping her wings. Fapping? Damn it. Sorry for that. Flapping her wings, levitating off the ground. Maybe that didn't count as a failure. She thought, I can still fly. There was a distraction on the field. She spun around to the judges, 3 hooves pointed down. Skulu started crying, their tears welling up and blurring her vision. This wasn't right. This shouldn't have happened. None of it. Orion should have passed his test and cheered her on from the east gate. Oh, she shouldn't have looked at him. She should have focused on flying, but there was no room for excuses. Defeated, she slowly hovered towards Orion and sitting down next to him. She looked at him through her purple eyes. He looked back, offering a smile. You did a good job. Orion, Skulu dropped her head and sobbed. She then walked around Orion, lifted a wing of her own, and helped Aura walk to the west gate. Before them stood a long, unlit hall with only a cheap sign stuck to the wall, notifying test failees to proceed down the hall. They waited, only briefly to gather themselves and prepare for where they would be taken, and they all stepped forward together. Alright, just gonna drink a little. Delicious. Syrup. Let's delve deeper into Rainbow's physiology, far beyond that of Cloudsdale mythology. It's easy to misjudge that floating city, with its alluring decor and social psychology. That sounds like something Zecora would say. Against an empty carriage at the end of the lonely hall were 3 imposing ponies leaning in a disinterested and bored pose. One of them happened to look up as the sorry-looking trio stumbled out in the open. They were on the bottom edge of the Colosseum, with the vast rolling hills and plains of Equestria visible far below. Hey, boss, we got them worthless Pegasuses, the first one called to an even bigger pony on the other side of the carriage. I suppose it's get that time, the work time, is it? Cool it, hotshot. There may be more too. No, I was the last student to go. Skulu spoke in sobs. Orion could only hang his head. It's. She paused and then breathed deeply, determined to remain as strong as she could. It's just us 3. Aura's wings. They're broken. She needs help. Ain't that just a crying shame, is it? What's it to us? All the better she don't come flying back to us no more. We may have failed our damn test, but that doesn't mean we're not worth keeping alive. Skulu shouted in a flash of rage. She was determined to hold on as much dignity as she could. All right, jeez. Hey, Patches, doctor up before we head out. I don't want any blood on them seats. I just washed that thing. You at the 2 in the cart. Orion and Skulu hopped into the carriage and got as comfortable as they could on the hard seats, but made sure to leave room for Aura. As soon as a third of the large ponies finished bandaging her wings, Aura carefully stepped onto the vehicle and lay down on the bench at the back. Skulu inched closer to her and leaned down to talk as the door to the carriage slammed shut. The boss pony was inside the back, standing by the door watching each of them. So, Skulu began quietly, trying not to speak too loud. You're Aura. I'm Skulu. I'm sorry we had to meet like this. Any meeting of a friend is a welcome meeting. Aura spoke gently, with sincerity in her eyes. We did our best. That's all we can say. That's all any of us can say. Who's to say that the city of the deported isn't a good one anyways? The thought struck Skuld as she considered it. Wow, stuttering. No one was ever told about where the Pegasi were brought. Most ponies considered to be some odd land, like where the zebras hailed from. That made Skulu realize something even more profound. Hey, if we're taking where it, wow. Hey, if we're taking is where Sakura's from, then there's got to be a way to get back. If not, as if we're banned from Equestria. Fluttershy? I think that means Fluttershy. It says Fluttershy here. An old friend of mine. She's a Pegasus who lives in Ponyville. She never passed flight school. She never took her test. They've never come and taken her away. Exactly. Aura agreed with a nod. Orion overhead and offered his thoughts. I think the reason we're sent far away is because no pony from Cloudsdale ever wants to admit that someone who failed flight school could come back to could come from their city. What a fucking horrible place, now that I think of it. I never want to go back. Maybe that's why no Pegasus ever comes back. They just don't like Cloudsdale. Your goddamn worthless ponies can hardly call yourself Pegasus. Boss spoke from the door. He was swaying ever so slightly as the carriage was lifted and moved to an unknown location. Wow, even more swearing. I didn't know ponies could swear. No, I was kidding. Alright. Useless failures is what you are. No pony comes back from exile, regardless of reason. Can't even pass your goddamn test. You three make me sick. Spit on them. Reading this story, I reckon in here, Pegasi are just jerks. Jeez, it's really crazy. Skula jumped up from her seat, lifted herself into the air with her wings, and dove legs first at the boss. You shut the hell up about us! You had no right to treat others like this. Boss raised a hoof and backhanded Skulu out of the air onto the floor. I can treat you however I want. You hardly classify as ponies to Cloudsdale. Or any of Equestria for that matter. Now sit the fuck down and shut up until we get to your destination. Where are we being taken anyways? Not like we can tell anyone now, and I'm sure as to the deliveries you guys should know. Wow, it's burped. Orion cautiously reasoned. Hell, if I know, we hand this carriage out to ponies in suits and get a bag full of coins to keep quiet about the whole thing. That's how it's always been for 1,000 years. The three fillies huddled together again, scared of the unknown. They kept quiet as they waded through the unbearable trip, all lost in their own thoughts. Friends, family, loved ones, and pets, all will never be seen again, and someone would never find out why. An hour passed, and then another. Finally, the uncomfortable quiet was broken by a sudden lurch as the carriage stopped in its flight. Ah, Boss smiled. There's my stop. You ponies play nice now. Have fun in wherever the hell you're sent to. The carriage door shuffled open and Boss hopped out with a gust of cold wind. It was night outside. Now with hardly any light to see at all, Skulu stared outside and noticed another figure staring in. It was dressed in a black suit, its tail dyed an unnatural black that never occurred in nature. Its face was covered by a dark, loose-fitting mask concealing its mane. All that was visible were rose-colored eyes staring indifferently at the three ponies inside. Rose-colored eyes. That reminds me of My Little Dash, where it says those rose-colored eyes. So would this be Rainbow Dash? This could not be Rainbow Dash, but yeah, it's my first time reading this fanfic, so anything can happen. They stopped on Skudler momentarily, unrecognizing, but she stared back. A second passed. The dark pony slammed the door shut and the carriage took off once again. At least we can talk now, Ahura whispered in the dark. But they had nothing to talk about. But with all great things comes a great responsibility. that of Cloudsdale's being weather stability. Well, Sakura's speaking. Jeez. Just need to take another sip of my drink. Ah, delicious. The carriage finally stuttered to a stop. The three dissolute foals blinked their eyes awake, having all resolved to conserve energy for whatever came next. With a loud scraping noise, the door shook and then swung wide open. Several more ponies, obscured by masks and suits, were moving around the area. Skulu blinked against the lights from what she was seeing. They were in a cloud building. As her eyes adjusted, she noticed more detail. Several of the blackened ponies were rushing around, some holding clipboards, some carrying briefcases, and some other looking items on their backs. Briefcases? What are these, G-Mans? The complex... Wow, stutter. The complex was full of machinery and signs. Pipes ran along the ceiling. A loud whir ran in the background, occasionally joined with other industrial sounds such as crashes and alarms. This place, the architecture, it's also familiar. I think we're in the weather factory. Or in Found. That can't be right. We were traveling for way too long. We've got to be far away from Equestria now, not to mention the city. Actually, Skulu may be right, or amused. I noticed. It was maybe the same amount of time from when we left the Coliseum to replace the carriage driver swap. It was from the swap place to here, but I don't know. I'm confused. Maybe that's just a coincidence. Welcome, mules! A large and powerful voice commanded. Several of the suited ponies moved to make way for a deep, dark red Pegasus dressed in a white lab coat. You degenerates are probably wondering where exactly you are. Stupid fillies. You're in Cloudsdale. The Rainbow Factory, to be correct. Allow me to show you around. What's going on here? Do you expect us as slaves? 'Cause I'd rather be deported, thanks, Skulu yelled. Orion and Aura got out their seats and stood behind Skulu, nodding in agreement. Like you failures have a choice. You'll be here for the rest of your lives. Oh, I'm sorry. Where are my manners? I'm Dr. Atmosphere. My degree isn't a medical one. I shall reassure you, in case you're picturing some dreadful surgery going on behind the scenes. Here's how many worthless Pegasus get that idea. No, my degree is in engineering. I'm one of the four cults in this factory. I'm sure you'll have to tour the lower factory, no? The three ponies nodded slowly, unsure of what was going on. Excellent. Who can tell me where this tour begins? Orion spoke up first. Where the spectre comes from upstairs and is mixed. Very good. What a pity you're utterly useless to the flock. You could have been a smart one. Dr. Atmosphere smiled sadistically and patted Orion on the head. But today, we'll be on the upper floor. Please follow me and don't get too far behind. Or one of my helpers will be forced to encourage you. With that, he winked at the suited ponies. With nods, three of them at the rear leaned forward and jabbed each of the Pegasus with tasers, shocking them to the ground. Dr. Atmosphere whined in laughter as they all yelped and fell, continued in a soft chuckle as they stood up again. Skula blinked more tears from her eyes and shook herself again, trying to lift the tingling in her nerves. She turned and quickly looked at each of the suited ponies, catching each of them in the eye where she could. None of them were the rose-colored pony from the carriage. Begrudgingly, she started walking behind the red engineer. You simply must be careful in this department, Dr. Atmosphere began in a tone not unlike the many tour guides in the lower floors. There's plenty of nooks and crannies and vents and vats one could fall into. One must be careful not to hurt themselves. After all, you're all hopeless as it is. And more so, and even we couldn't use you. He glanced behind himself maliciously as the three foals frowned in insult. They were walking down a series of halls with vibrating machines and assembly lines lining the way, occasionally ducking under low-hanging wires or carefully stepping over steaming pipes. As they walked through it, the building became cooler and cooler. All three were watching, sensing, looking for a way out. They couldn't see any. Now, let me tell you a story. Cloudsdale is where the weather is made. Without us, the rest of Equestria would starve, freeze, drown, and generally be a not very happy place. That gives us a special honor, one that can't be tamed by incompetent foes like you. How could the world look up and trust us Pegasi if Pegasi like you are flying around wearing the Cloudsdale name? No, no, we need to do something with all of you. And then we got a delicious idea. One day, over 1,000 years ago. Those were some smart ponies back then, I'll say. You don't find too many of them these days, but I digress. Ha ha! Here now, through these doors, quickly now, before more encouragement is supplied. Dr. Atmosphere opened a heavy-looking door in a cramped corridor and offered a hoof inside. Skulu stared up at him. He glanced at the suited pony. Skulu and the others walked inside as he laughed again. Ha ha ha! Enjoy the rest of your pitiful life. And with that, he slammed the door closed. They all turned and looked at the big room they had been led to. It was fairly open and empty, almost like a theater room. At one end of the room there were 6 square vats, each one nearly full with individual spectra. Above them was a peculiar-looking machine from a central stack. 6 horses broke off and led above each of the individual vats. At the top of the stack was a single opening, red with rust despite the rest of the machine to be shiny and clean. Even further above that was a fairly complex-looking object, with changing gears hanging off of beams and pipes loosely. Running even higher than the whole machine was a length of scaffolding, with doors on either side leading out of the room. Down on the floor, a small collection of defeated, crying ponies sat, chatting quietly. Those suits, those are from the other flight school across town, or informed sounding shocked. And those other ponies sitting over there, see? I remember a trip we went on once with Levitating Acres Private School. I remember them from that trip. So, this is where all the failures go? Not deported but forced to work forever? Orion sobbed quietly in exchange for helping someone. He had doomed himself and his good friend to a life of servitude. Skulu reached a reassuring wing over and lifted his chin. She smiled at him, understanding his depression. At least we don't have to go through it all alone. She cooed suddenly? What the hell? Suddenly, there was a commotion in the group of ex-students. One pony from an unidentified school took off, headed toward one of the doors on the scaffolding. Immediately, 2 suited ponies launched at record speed and both clipped the fly away with their tasers. The pony spasmed in air and then dropped like a stone. With an audible crack as he landed and a violent burst of twitching, all the other ponies walked back, staring horrified at their friend. They watched, hopefully, for a long time. Some cried softly, most others turned away, too far confused to feel any more emotions. I guess that's options out, Aurora quietly said to no one in particular. But you can't fly right now, anyways. That medic guy, Patches or whatever he was called, he popped my wings back into their joints and bandaged up where my skin tore. I won't be winning any races, but I can fly again. They slowly walked forward and joined the group of ponies, looking at each other with understanding sorrow. I sprint and center you, inept mules, one of the suited ponies shouted. At the previous display, no one challenged that order and stared at the scaffolding, just as one of the doors opened. Man, my throat is dry as shit. Jeez, it's like a desert. Good thing I have enough to drink. How, you ask, are they up to the task? To which the answer is in a simple facility. Man, who makes these rhymes? He's awesome. Or she. Maybe it was Sakura. A few official-looking Pegasi walked in onto the scaffolding and turned to look down on the group with disgust. One stood up onto a small podium set up in the center and began speaking loudly and clearly. By now, you've all clearly determined that you're not going into exile. There's no deportation, there never was. You are in the factory, you will never leave the factory. And while you may be called useless, that's also not entirely true. You're worthless to the flog as a pony, but you still have purpose. Purpose to all the ponies in this land, far and wide. You get to help us make rainbows. Beautiful, magical rainbows. Doesn't that excite you? The mysterious announcer grinned ecstatically, taking in all the disgusted looks from every foe on the floor below him. I thought so, he chuckled. It's just such a horror, you know. A horror, honor, you know. It leaves every pony entrusted with a task speechless too. Now, do we have any volunteers? Again, every pony below glared with hate. One brave pony, a light pink one from levitating a crest, walked forward a few steps, then yelled, "How could you ever get away with this? How could Celestia or even Luna know about this and tolerate this? It's slavery, it's torture." Maybe that's Pinkie Pie's daughter or something. I think you'll find it's more than that. A second official pony walked up the stair, out of the shadows, and up to the podium. The pony was in a suit and masked. The first pony walked off the podium and allowed the second to talk. Scootaloo noticed that it was the rose-eyed pony from before. She watched more intently now. The voice was familiar. I think we're going to find out that it's Rainbow Dash or something, because those rose eyes, that's really Rainbow Dash. 1,000 years ago, when Celestia banished Luna from Equestria and sent her to the moon, she was charged with 3 tasks. She originally was in charge of raising the sun and showering the land with rainbows. But with the moon being an additional task, she had to hand down the responsibility of rainbows. Celestia entrusted the Pegasi of Cloudsdale to make the rainbows for her. From them on, for the first dozen years, we were given powerful unicorns to help create Spectra. Spectra is pure pigment, pure color. Everything is full of spectra, but you can't harvest it. You can never separate color from an object, so it was made artificially with magic. The masked pony never took her eyes off the brave pink one. That is, until our top engineers made a breakthrough. They discovered an ingenious way to extract pigment, and it was so beautiful even if a simple machine could do it. But it couldn't be done with just anything. The conditions had to be right. What did those horrible people do? The pink Pegasus screamed, growing angrier by the minute. Oh, here it comes. I have the feeling we're gonna find out it's Rainbow Dash now. The mysterious pony whipped off her mask, unveiling more than her rose eyes. Her skin was a light cyan, and her mane was a gorgeous rainbow. Oh, yep, it's Rainbow. It's Rainbow Dash. Shit. Oh, man. Several of the fillies gasped. Scootaloo's knees weakened as it hit her. It was Rainbow Dash. Scootaloo's thoughts raced through her mind as the room started spinning. It couldn't be. An evil twin, maybe. Perhaps some neglected sister. Rainbow Dash couldn't be this evil. She was her friend. Her mentor. Her only family, not by blood. How? How was all she could think. It had to be live ponies. Only ponies where magic and spectra ran freely together. Rainbow Dash threw her head back and laughed maniacally. Only then could the spectra be separated, and it was such a beautiful idea. Such a wonderfully horrible idea. It worked so well. We could create exponentially more rainbows, or of better quality with real spectra. And it finally gave us to prevent Cloudsdale from being tainted by all those horrible Pegasus which couldn't fly. Scootaloo couldn't take it. while all the other ponies were exclaiming their disgust and fear, running and screaming for where they came in, backing off as suited ponies surrounded them and herded them back into the center of the floor. Skulu couldn't take it anymore. "I thought you loved me!" she wailed, cutting Rainbow Dash's laughter short. "Huh?" She turned and noticed the amber-orange Pegasus. "I thought you loved me. How could you do this to me? I thought you cared for me. After all the help. All my life, you've treated me like a little sister. And I treated you like my big sister. You were my big sister to me. You were the only family I ever had, and you knew it." Tears were pouring down her face now, obscuring her vision again. Her throat hurt from the crying and shouting, but she couldn't stop. After everything, you're just gonna let me die. I tried so hard for you." She stared at the floor for a moment. Everyone was silent. Then Skulu looked up slowly, and what she couldn't see from the sadness in her eyes, she looked at Rainbow Dash. Straight into those rosy eyes, past them, and deep into Rainbow Dash herself. I thought you loved me." Rainbow Dash returned her look. Her eyes revealed no emotion, no love, no care, only apathy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, sorry. Slowly, however, they glared at Skulu. Pure, seething hate erupted from Rainbow Dash's mouth as she screamed in return. "I did love you! I tried so hard for you! I told you everything I knew, in hopes you would pass through your test. You had it in you, kid. I knew what they did here. Ever since I performed that sonic rainbow and they approached me, they wanted me to find more ways to make Spectrum. They thought that if I was capable of making rainbows, I could help them make its components. Well, they couldn't, but I learned a lot from this place. I'm the manager here now, you know. I worked my way up in secret, pretending to be only a simple weather control. How do you think I could afford that massive house over Ponyville? How do you..." She trailed, shaking her head, remembering her anger suddenly. "I tried, all right. It was up to you to save me. You didn't just fail yourself. You didn't just fail Cloudsdale. You failed me. You failed me. And that's the worst thing you could have done. You aren't just dead to Cloudsdale now. You are dead to me." Wow, that goes deep. Rainbow Dash, what has become of you? Wow. The room tilted as Scootaloo tried to comprehend what she was told. Her mind broke, as she was totally unable to focus on anything. She stumbled slightly until Orion held open a wing and she clung to it for stability. Rainbow Dash noticed this and pointed and yelled with more fury. "You can't have happiness. You ruined me. Now I'll ruin you. Workers, the brown one there. Him first." "No!" Skulu, Ahura, and Orion all jumped. Suited ponies cornering Orion, pushing the other two to the side. He tried to leap out of the way to run, but one of the stallions spun around and kicked at him. The hoof connected to his shoulder, and Orion collapsed with a shout. "Get back!" more suits yelled at Orion and Skulu as they dragged the whimpering Orion to the front of the room. The giant machine at the back started humming to life. Oh god. Oh shit. This is where the horrible part is gonna start, I know it. I just have to drink for a sec. This is where the disgusting part starts. Good thing I have my barfing bag standing by. And the assembly of chains lifted off the top and moved towards the floor. Everyone noticed they were shackles now, and the suits collapsed Orion into them. Braving a look up, he turned to Skulu. "Don't worry, Scoots. I love you. Goodbye." "Goodbye, Orion," Skulu gasped. I love you too." With that, the chains pulled tight and lifted the brown Pegasus all the way up to the gears. The chains grew taut and stretched each of Orion's limbs straight up and down. "We find the machine works better if the ribs are broken," Rainbow Dash explained, almost covered the echoing pops and shattering noises. Oh god. One or two jagged bones tore through his side, and his yells faded to a slow, quiet rattle of breath. The chains untwisted. Then the shackles opened, dropping the shattered pony into a single opening. With horror, Scootaloo watched, her brain, overcoming with what was happening, detached from all her emotions. She noticed at the top of the machine wasn't rusty. It was blood. Blood, just like what was being tossed up from the mangled remains of Orion as the rest of his body was swallowed up in the great machine, finished with one low hoof directed straight up. Oh god. And then there was nothing left. Oh fuck, I'm gonna be sick of this. As the hoses over the green and red vats of Spectrum started spewing their brilliant colors, Scootaloo's vision started to fade. And the last thing she noticed was Aura's concerned, broken voice, saying her name as Scootaloo flopped to the side. And this is some of the lyrics from the song. In the Rainbow Factory, where your fears and horrors come true. In the Rainbow Factory, where not a single soul gets through. Oh man. I thought Cupcakes was dramatic, but this is horrible. Seriously. Scootaloo, get up. Get up now, hurry, Scootaloo, wake up, wake up. Scootaloo shook her head, briefly wondering where she was and what was happening. In a flash, it all came back, and she jumped to her feet. Aura was shaking her, fright encasing her face. The suits were starting to approach the two now, tasers and shackles up and ready. Scootaloo, they're coming for us. What do we do? Scootaloo looked for an opening. All the doors were blocked, except for one. On the scaffolding. The suited ponies were slowly approaching, not rushing in order to prevent the fillies from freaking out. Fear was their tool. Scootaloo spun around, looking for an exit. There was only one, she realized. I have a plan, she whispered to Aura. What's that? Clear, fly, fall, complete. Aura nodded in understanding, her eyes widened. She repeated, loud enough so the other frightened fillies could hear her. Clear, fly, fall, complete. Got it. 1, Scootaloo started counting. 2, Aura squeaked as she backed into Scootaloo. The suits were mere feet away now. 3! A collective shout reverberated across the room as every filly that could actually fly take off. The suited ponies gasped and fell back, unsure of where to go. There was too much confusion. A few of the faster-thinking ones took off as well, tasers at the ready, aiming at the closest Pegasus they could take. Step 1! Scootaloo screamed. Clear! This is a Black Ops reference, right there. Step 1! Ascend from darkness! Nice reference there, guy. With her command, the failures started targeting the dark ponies in droves. Hooves connected with heads, and while some of the students fell lifeless to the floor, the majority of casualties were the suited ponies. Scootaloo and Aura landed on the scaffolding right by the door and reached to open it. It was locked. Oh god, what do we do? Aura cried. We're still unclear, she shouted, turning around and bucking the door. Aurora focused her, focusing the brunt of her blows on the part of the wall where the latch would be. Rainbow Dash, on the other side of the scaffolding, recovered from her initial shock of the rebellion and noticed Scootaloo pounding on the door. Kill her! She screamed at the other important looking ponies. Kill her! She started to gallop towards the fillies. Forgetting her wings momentarily, Scootaloo closed her eyes, pounding harder and harder around the door. It started to creak and splinter. Any second now, she thought, Rainbow Dash will get here. It's doomed. It's over. I'm doomed. She would have cried, but there were no more tears left. But nothing came. The door started to split from its frame, now leaning inward. It wouldn't be long until it was opened. She opened her clenched eyes, peeking up at the scaffolding. All the remaining ponies were there, pressing together, holding the enraged blue Pegasus and her cronies back. They wouldn't last long, however. Even as Scootaloo watched, twitching and yelping ponies were falling to the floor below. Some even landed in the great maw of the Spectrum machine. Oh god. The pink pony from levitating across was there, and she turned to Skulu and Aura just as the door flew back into the hall behind. Fly! The pink pony demanded with pain in her voice. She opened her mouth to speak again, but was cut short as the pile of Pegasus blew apart, with Rainbow Dash standing enraged in the open. She was on her two back hooves, her front rolling in the air. An unearthly howl passed her lips, and her rose eyes were drained of any sanity that was left. Come on, Aura, Schoolie pleaded as she spun around. We've got to fly if we're going to live. I I can't. This is just too much. I haven't healed. Aura looked at Skulu with wide open eyes. You go, Skulu. Tell everyone what happens here. Let them know. She glanced at the wall students, almost bare now. Oh my god, this is just sickening. As Rainbow Dash bloodlust tore them to pieces, her blue coat was now glistening crimson, almost dripping as she ignored the need for live ponies. There would be more. Class could take a small shortage of rainbows. In another few months there will be more classes, more failures. But for now, all she knew that Skulu had to die, violently if possible. Decades of working for the Rainbow Factory had fractured her. She was the only one allowed in public, and keeping the horrible secret since her childhood had only led to physiological problems that no amount of therapy could cure. Skulu was her last link on sanity, and her failure had deleted that. There was no logic in her mind anymore, no care, no capacity for compassion, only hate. Pure, concentrated, and evil hatred filled the gap her love for Skulu had once occupied. Rainbow Dash was no more. Only this monster remained. I hardly knew you, Aura. Skulu cooed softly into the yellow Pegasus behind her. Oh god. No. Fuck. I'm getting a little teary-eyed here. I'm sorry I never knew you until all this. I'm sorry I had to meet like this. And I'm sorry we have to part like this. She sniffed. She had found more tears. Any meeting of a friend is a welcome meeting, Aura reassured Skulu. Now you heard the other pony. Fly, Skulu, fly. Goodbye. Goodbye, Aura. With that, Skulu levitated and spun around, looking into the yellow pony's eyes one last time, and launched down the cramped corridor. Fuck. I'm gonna cry. Fuck. Just give me a sec here. Shit. Oh man, that's so sad. I just had to take another drink. One, two, three. Right. Let's continue. She had no idea where she was going, but any chance at freedom was one she had to take. Aura blinked a couple of times. Wait a sec, I gotta scroll down. Standing in front of the door, Rainbow Dash would have at least one obstacle in her way to Skulu. The blue pony tossed the last of the other students over the scaffolding and slowly walked towards Aura. How cute. You think that you, a useless, broken pile of manure, could possibly stand in my way? Ha, you really make me laugh. None of you can compete with the awesome power I have. Love can overcome all evils in this world. Aura straightened herself in rebellion as Rainbow Dash stopped in front of her. Aura stayed in front of the Rainbow Dash, bearing her entry down the corridor behind. Well then, bitch. Let's see if love will overcome this one. Oh god. Oh shit, this is another horror part. Embrace yourselves. And with that, Rainbow Dash grabbed one of Aurora's bandage's wings. Oh shit. And pulled, tearing it off her completely. Fuck. Aura collapsed onto her knees, grinding her teeth in horrible pain. But she didn't scream. She wouldn't give it to Rainbow Dash. Rainbow grabbed her other wing and dragged her kicking and mowing down the center of the scaffolding. She lifted Aura up by the wing, laughing quietly to herself as she looked, as a look of intense agony appeared on Aura's face. Oh, fuck. Rainbow Dash took to the air, bringing the squirming yellow and green pony with her over the top of the machine. With a squeak of evil laughter, she jerked the wing in her hoof. It, too, disconnected from the now convulsing Pegasus. And Aura fell. Fuck. Why do I have such a strong imagination? I'm seeing all this in front of me right now. Shit. She landed head first. The door on the scaffolding closed with a gust of wind just as the machine began pumping out the brightest greens and yellow it had ever produced. And there was no one around to see it. Fuck. Is it done already? Really? Wow. There's really just a little part left. It's pretty not long. Skulu glanced backwards momentarily, her heart pounding. The noise of the constant thump, thump, thump drowned out any of the other sounds in her head, her ears throbbing along with it. The corridor was just like the one that led to the theater room, crammed with dozens of obstacles jutting at random intervals. Straight behind her, maybe 500 meters now, the bloody mare that used to be Rainbow Dash was cruising along herself. Both Pegasi were completely straight, whose forward, wings beating at an impossible count, one trying to escape, the other trying to capture. Skulu looked forward again, focusing on what lay ahead of her. That's all that matters, she thought. What ahead of me? There's no change in what's behind me. Ignore it. Focus. For the second time in as many days, a flood of instinct overtook Skulu, and despite the terror she felt in her body, the sorrow that had surrounded her, and the evil behind her, her worries melted away, and the thought of flying encased her very being. Scroll down again. Down under the wires and pipes she ducked, up and around various workers whose complaints and shouts were ignored, only to be repeated momentarily as the raging pony behind collided with them. Her body doing the flying, Skulu's thoughts turned to escape opportunities. She whipped around sharp corners at impossible speed, zipped up and down countless sets of stairs, trying to shake her murderous tail, but to no avail. She contemplated every nook and cranny she passed, briefly considering hiding. She struck that idea down. As insane as Rainbow Dash may be, she was still too smart to overlook any possible spot Skulu may be. But there, ahead of her, Skulu thought she found a solution. A garbage bin of some kind, sticking out of the wall, down to the floor below. Momentarily, she gave thought to where it may lead, whether out of the factory or into some incinerator she couldn't tell. But it was probably worth the risk. Oh god, this is really fucking scary. She snuck one last glance behind her to make sure that the unstable mare was far away enough. Rainbow Dash was paying no attention to any hazard as she sought her prey, turn through electrical wires and ricocheting off heated pipes, going through any obstacle rather than around to save time. But the collision had slowed her down enough to give Skulu a chance. She slammed to a sudden halt over the opening vent, hoping for her life. "Whoa," she muttered, closing her eyes and her wings, resisting the urge to start flapping immediately. She counted silently to herself as she shut her wrist past her closed eyes, hoping for the best of where this vent leads. 1, 2, 3. She opened her eyes and her wings and looked up, hovering. Oh, shit. Rainbow Dash was up above, looking down into the vent. Her eyes were buggy and twitched. Her hoofs pounded on the edge of the vent. She was too large to follow. The filly had barely made it in herself. But then the anger in her face vanished, only to be replaced by a malicious grin. She started to laugh again, the crackle echoing down the vent and reverberating in School's mind. You moron, you never had a good sense of direction, she teased, laughing again. Skulu finally looked down, getting her bearings. Oh no! She was in the theater room again. Only, by now, it was full of suited ponies circling her. Their face masks seemed to be grinning at her as Rainbow Dash shouted orders down the van. Don't let her die. I must do. Subdue her. Catch her. She whined or is it whinnied? I don't know. In glorious victory as the suit shocked Skulu with a taser and, as her limp body began to fall from the air, caught her and brought her to the floor. Skulu blacked out momentarily as the electricity passed through her, but she came to lying on the cold cloud floor, metal shackles preventing her from moving. She struggled to get free. Oh my god, I'm gonna have so many nightmares. My throat is so dry as shit. She could hardly shake. The chains lifted her slightly, bringing her small body eye to eye with the Pegasus in front of her. The pony was a deep, blood-red glistering in the artificial light of the factory. Her mane had small spots of glorious colors of the rainbow, but was mostly the same red color as her coat of fur. This is horrible to see in front of you, seriously. It's fucking horrible. Chunks of skin were missing from small spots, and her hair was ripped in some places, bald patches of skin in others. The only clue Skulu had as to who this used to be with a rose iris focused on her. Any final words, you miserable, worthless whore of a foe? Skulu brought her chin high, still demanding even the tiniest fraction of dignity. You have beautiful eyes, she cooed, soft yet clearly. Holy shit. Oh my. Wait. Dots. Holy shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. I shouldn't have scrolled down. Seriously. Oh my god. This picture is horrible. Seriously. Wow, this is horrible. I'm just gonna scroll up again. I can't look at it. Oh my god, this is a horrible fanfic. Well, it's a good fanfic, but the story is horrible. Oh god. It's good how it's like a really open ending, it's just like, yeah, you have beautiful eyes, and then it just stops, and there's this picture of Rainbow Dash, and she has like blood all over her face and her eyes staring at you. I just had to scroll up again. I can't look at that picture. Alright, I'm shaking like hell. I just read a fanfic, which is nearly worse than cupcakes. And I'm traumatized. Wow. What a fanfic. Seriously. Okay. Oh god. Okay, so this is I'm sorry, I just had to wet my throat again. I can never look at a rainbow the same again. Now rainbows would just remind me of a horrible, horrible story. Just like those delicious cupcakes will. I should be saying delicious. Come on. Alright, so that's one really, I guess, fucked up fanfic. Let's see, who made this? Aurora Dawn. Alright. So, yeah, yeah, this is, this is a pretty interesting story. I don't know what to say. It disgusts me, but it's also really interesting. My mind is like it's blown. This this is gonna make it way harder to write my little dashy. Wow, that's this is a really interesting fanfic. Yeah, Aura Dawn. Thanks for writing this story. I guess. I hope they lock you away in some place where you will never be seen of again. Nah, just kidding. It's a pretty good fanfic. You know what? I might just write maybe an ending to it or something. I don't know. I just have to see. I guess I'm going to have to finish My Little Dashie first. And of course, I got my Equestrian Adventures going too, so. Yeah, that's all that's really to it. So that's the Rainbow Factory, alright? Jesus. This picture, man, it's fucking scary. She just not look. She looks at you, but she looks deeper. I can feel her looking into my soul with that hate in her eyes. It's just, it's fucking horrible. I'm gonna have that picture in my mind for years, for many many days, man. And well, alright. So I guess that's it. If you want to see more, rate, comment, and subscribe. So give that like button some attention, comments, so you can help me. So you can help me make more videos. And well, subscribe to give me encouragement. So yeah, well, thanks for watching, I guess. And thanks, Aura Dawn, for creating this, I guess, special fanfic. So yeah, see you guys later.